Hey gang, and welcome back. These videos are brought to you by Card Conduit, the best place to sell your unused collection fast and easily. 401 Games, Canada's top shop for all your hobby and TCG needs. Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest decks. Moxfield, the easiest way to store and share your deck lists. And Foil Armor, flatten your foils fast. David wins the die roll, but Corwin has a pregame action, putting to field Leyline of the Void, much to the chagrin of David and Ben's decks. Anyway, David draws for turn and plays out a Polluted Delta. He cracks it, losing 1, and finds a breeding pool taking 2 more, and exiles the Polluted Delta. He shortcuts though, casting Birds of Paradise first. Corwin plays a Fury Calm Snarl, revealing a Sacred Foundry. Ben just plays a Swamp. Charles has a tap Stomping Grounds. David plays a Mountain, and casts Near-Div Devious Diver. Corwin's land for turn is a tap Ajuga Bog, exiling Charles' non-existent graveyard. Ben's got an island, and he casts Ethereum Sculptor. Charles' turn has him playing a mountain, and paying a green and a red for Rydia. David plays a Flooded Strand, cracking it and exiling it to go and find Steam Vents, losing a total of 3. He then casts Firebrand Archer. Once that's resolved, he plays out Arcane Signet, dealing 1 to each opponent. He then swings Nerdiv at Corwin for 2. On attack, he mills Ben for 2, which are immediately exiled. Corwin's got a Sacred Foundry, taking 2 so it comes in untapped. He then casts Tai Joaquin, Perfect Shot, and passes after it resolves. Ben's got a Swamp, and casts Reduced Costing Talisman of Dominance, and then a Reduced Costing Spironic Resonator. Charles' main phase has him first playing out Lotus Cobra, and he follows up with Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth, getting 2 landfall triggers. He floats a mana with the Cobra, and discards a card and draws with Rydia. He uses the floating mana and his last land to cast Badgermole Cub, and Earth bends on his mountain as the Cub enters. David plays a tap Mystic Sanctuary, and then casts the Legend of Kuruk, dealing 1 to each opponent with the Arch trigger. He scries 2 and draws a card as the first lore counter gets put onto the enchantment. Corwin plays Layla in his main phase, and he goes to combat. He swings her at Ben, and on attack, gets to exile his top card. Sadly for Corwin, it's not a land, but Layla still gets a +1 counter anyway. He passes after she connects. Ben just casts a Thopter Spy Network in his main phase, and passes. Charles has got a Forest, and gets his mana from the Cobra, and discards a card and draws a card with Rydia's landfall trigger. He then casts a Solemn Simulacrum, going to find a land, and gets another round of landfall triggers as the basic comes in. He then taps the Earthbent Mountain for 2 mana thanks to the Badgermole Cub, and uses the floating mana to help pay for Valakut Awakening. David considers stopping this, but is convinced by Charles that he's clearly not the threat right now. It resolves, with Charles bottoming some cards, and drawing that many +1 as he passes. David's turn has him adding another lore counter in his main phase, scrying 2 and drawing. He then casts Faithless Looting, pinging his opponents with the Archer again, drawing 2 and then discarding 2 that are exiled. He then casts Energy Bending, pinging the table again and drawing a card. Moving to combat, Nerdiv then goes at Ben, and David has Charles mill the 2 this time. Ben doesn't block, and David then passes turn. Corwin is unfortunately stalled on lands, and he moves to combat swinging Layla at David. He gets lucky, exiling a land off the top, and Layla adds a +1 counter to herself. David then takes the hit, and in his second main phase, Corwin then plays the Isolated Chapel he exiled for turn. He then has enough mana to bring out the War Doctor, and passes to Ben. Ben's upkeep has him activating his Strionic Resonator in response to the Spy Network trigger, making 2 Thopter tokens instead of 1. He then draws for turn, and casts Master of Ethereum. He ships it after that. Charles' main phase has him bringing out Toph the first Metalbender, and he plays a Forest. He gets his landfall triggers, floating a mana, and discarding a card to draw a card. He then plays a Deluxe Artillery, which because Toph is out, is actually a land as it enters. He gets another round of landfall triggers, and then passes. During his end step, Toph triggers and Earthbends 2 on a Forest. David puts the final lore counter onto the legend in his main phase, transforming it into Avatar Kuruk. He plays a Fire Nation Palace as his land drop, and then casts Secrets of the Dead, pinging his opponents for 1, and making a Spirit token. He then plays out Nature's Lore, pinging the table again, and making another Spirit token. As the spell is exiled though, Corwin gets to add a counter onto the War Doctor. With nothing else, David passes. Corwin's main phase has Swiftfoot boots coming in. And David's finally found the commercial district, surveilling one and bidding the card, so the War Doctor gets another counter. Corwin then gears up the War Doctor with the boots, and suspends Ecstatic Beauty. Moving to combat, he swings the War Doctor at Charles and Layla at David, getting 2 on attack triggers. With Layla exiling a card, she adds a +1/+1 counter to herself, and the War Doctor sees the card go into exile, adding a counter to himself as well. Corwin also gets to blast the Master of Ethereum with the War Doctor on attack trigger. He deals exactly the amount of damage needed with the trigger, which has Tywakeen drawing him a card. The Master then exiles it hits the bin, giving the War Doctor another counter. David is then able to block with one of the restrictive tokens that Kuruk makes anyway, and Charles chumps with the Solemn Simulacrum. As it hits the graveyard, it's exiled, so Charles doesn't get to draw a card, and instead, the War Doctor gets a counter. Ben casts the Eternity Elevator in his main phase, and then taps it, plus bounces a land to hand to cast Mistvein Border Post. He swings his 2 Thopters at Corwin, and at this point remembers he was supposed to make one on his upkeep. He then taps the Ethereum Sculptor to help crew up the elevator, and passes. Charles brings out Tanook in his main phase, and then casts Chocobo Racetrack. It's a land as it enters because Toph is out, triggering a myriad of landfall abilities. He discards a card Iridia, which is exiled to the War Doctor, giving a counter to the War Doctor, and draws, plus makes a mana, plus pings his opponents with Tanook, and makes a bird token. Charles then plays Sokenzan as his land for turn, doing this all again, plus drawing a card from Tanook, triggering the second time this time. Charles then follows up by casting an Ichor Wellspring, doing the whole landfall thing again, plus drawing a card as it enters to itself. He then plays out an Evolution Sage. Charles then passes, and earthbends 2 on his Ichor Wellspring thanks to Toph. David draws and casts Iroh Grand Lotus, who seems not particularly useful at this point. He then makes a Spirit token though, and passes after that. Corwin downticks his Suspended Beauty, and plays a Haunted Ridgeline as his land for turn. He then follows up with some redundancy by casting Promise of Tomorrow, and he goes to combat. Leyline heads at Charles, while the War Doctor aims to make a house call to Ben's face. On attack, Layla exiles Valky, which gives another counter to the Doctor, and the Doctor's on attack trigger deals 6 to Charles. Ben doesn't block, but Charles chumps with a bird token, and Corwin ships it after that. Ben once more uses his Strionic Resonator to copy the Thopter Spy Network trigger, making 2 Thopters instead of the usual 1. He then draws for turn and casts Golbez. Not done with the Universes Beyond though, Ben then plays out Iron Spider Stark Upgrade, which has him surveilling 1 as it comes in, but he doesn't want to feed the War Doctor any more than he has to, and keeps it on top. He then plays out an Academy Manufactor, and keeps the card on top. Going to combat, 3 Thopter tokens head at Corwin, who takes the hit for 3, and Ben draws a card from the Spy Network. He then plays a Reliquary Tower as his land for turn, and passes. Charles has a Forest return, and makes a bird token, pings his opponents, and floats a mana. He announces he'll move to combat, and Corwin responds by casting Rakdos Charm, and picks the mode to have all creatures deal 1 to their controllers. Charles then swings all out at Corwin, who blocks the Lotus Cobra, but is taken out. Charles then moves to his end step, and earthbends 2 on his Lux Artillery. During the end step, David casts Heroic Intervention. David untaps and draws. He plays Seismic Sense, looking at his top 6 cards, but also gets to ping his opponents for 1 with the Archer. He reveals a Stormkiln Artist, and puts it to hand. David then casts the Artist, and flashes back the Sense, paying only 1 colorless to do so thanks to Iroh. This draws him a card from the Secrets, plus draws him a card from Nerdiv, and adds a +1/+1 counter to the Merfolk. He also gets to make a Spirit token, makes a Treasure token, and pings his opponents again. He then resolves the Sense, revealing Archmage Emeritus to put to hand. David then flashes back his Heroic Intervention, drawing 2 cards, making a Treasure, making a Spirit, and pinging the table. He goes to combat, and swings Nerdiv and Iroh at Charles. On attack, since Nerdiv is tapped, David targets himself and mills 4, hitting 2 lessons. He also gains 2 red from Firebending, and David then flashes back Accumulate Wisdom, drawing his cards, making his Treasure, making a Spirit, and pinging the table. David reveals Abandoned Attachments, and moving to blocks, Charles chumps the Artillery and a bird token. The Artillery does come back thanks to Earthbending though, and since it's land again because of Toph being out, it triggers all of Charles' landfall abilities. David's second main phase then has him casting the attachments, discarding a card to draw 2, and drawing his cards from everything else, plus making a treasure, a spirit, and pinging the table. He then flashes back abandoned attachments for only 1 colorless, and does it all again. One of the cards he pitches is Introduction to Prophecy, which he flashes back, and spell slings even more, and then scries 2 and draws a card from the spell itself. He then flashes back Zuko's Exile, doing it all again, and exiles Ben's Academy Manufactor. David then flashes back Earthbending Lessons, gaining even more value, and Earthbends a Mountain. He then needs only cast Shared Roots from hand to do the last point of damage needed to Ben, and wins the game.
Game review time. So I'm on the mend, so we're going to try and power through this. I think the strongest card this game was probably Leyline of the Void, as it had such a massive impact on 2 of the 3 decks of the field that were against Corwin's deck. I think it was particularly brutal that he had it in turn 0, especially knowing that he had 2 opponents who relied so heavily on their graveyards, but that's just the way it goes. Otherwise, it was nice to see that Iroh stormed off and actually got to do something, so props to David for playing it so well.
This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.